this is a great time for us to be covering the space industry because it is so busy right now. If you look at just the first half of 2022, there were 72 rocket launches that put more than 1,000 spacecraft into orbit. And that's actually more spacecraft in orbit than were launched in the whole first 52 years of the space age. So things are really, taking off, not to get funny here. And it's also a huge part of the economy. The global space economy uh, is on its way to 500 billion. So it's a really big deal. And it's taking off now. And it's also kind of serendipitous that it's happening now because we're 60 years out from the iconic JFK speech where he said, we choose to go to the moon within a decade. And that was a huge goal then. And it really, inspired the nation and inspired the world to get moving. And we're kind of at that same spot again, finally, where we have that drive to take big leaps and bounds into space again. And, it's interesting why it's happening now. For a while, I heard from experts about how, for a while there were decades where the space industry wanted to kind of keep things safe and move along progressively. But now there are new entrants into the field, new private ventures. There's so much VC money going into space. And you have huge players like SpaceX with Elon Musk backing it, and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic that are taking the space industry into new realms we've never seen before, like space tourism and privatizing the industry. But also NASA is finally reaching some really big milestones with the James Webb Telescope, giving us glimpses farther into space than we've ever seen. And the Artemis mission, which will take us back to the moon and from there to Mars is the plan. And so there's a lot going on right now. And of course, with that will come a lot of innovation.
Yeah. So speaking of innovation, there's a lot of skepticism still in some quarters about the both the tech industry and the governments of the world spending so much money, so many resources on space, right? So you wrote in your intro piece to this series about how the space race is driving innovation and how the work that goes into it actually has a pretty substantial impact on the tech industry and the development of new technologies. Stephanie, so could you sum that up for us? What's the other side of that argument of why it's worth putting so much resource, so much energy, so much attention into the space race?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's absolutely true, Jason. NASA acknowledges all the time that they're using public money. They can't, just goof around with it and try new things just because it's cool, even though it is. But all you have to do is look at the innovation that the first space era gave us to see the economic payoff and how it helps us not only economically, but in our everyday lives. Look at GPS alone is such a humongous industry, and that was born out of the space industry, and GPS powers everything from, your ride share to weather forecasts. And it's hard to imagine everyday life without everything that GPS and those satellite capabilities afford us. And when you look ahead at what the space industry will need to move forward with its new goals, we already know they're going to need to advance things like 3D manufacturing, 3D printing, biotechnologies. They'll bring us new propulsion technologies like nuclear propulsion and all sorts of innovations that can help us in ways that we probably can't even imagine right now. They're building new spacesuits. They're building orbital outposts for people to exist in space, to work and live in space. New communication systems that will be needed to, keep in touch with the people on those orbital outposts. And given how much GPS has transformed our lives, I'm sure the new communication systems will also have a profound impact on people here on Earth.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that last one is one that we could talk about because even more if we had the time, which is that those communication technologies to be able to have communication with people in low orbit or even a little bit further out, those are likely to have an impact on broadband, for example, here. Like if we find better protocols to communicate and move data faster, those have the potential to increase or improve, bandwidth, which is still a problem in remote areas, in rural areas, and of course the space race with now the satellite race that's going on with SpaceX, Starlink, and others is having a direct impact on that, of course, and is expected to have a very important impact on the quality of broadband universally across the U.S. But as these new technologies, we're likely to see, like you said, GPS, but also the space race is credited with leading to the innovations that triggered the smartphone, cellular phone industry, tablets, laptops, many, many other technologies as well.